tip, Yak.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. We are going to start the very next book club a couple weeks before Christmas, about a week and a half actually, so that you have time to get this book, The Orvis Guide to Stillwater Trout Fishing by Phil Rowley, just in time for the holiday season. Yeah. Anyways, pick up this book. Perfect thing to ask for as a last-minute Christmas present, so we can do the book club here together. Would love to get your guys' feedback, learn along with you, because this is a topic, stillwater fishing, that I suck at. I'm horrible at stillwater fishing. When I did some in Pennsylvania, I would get very lucky. I would do a lot of stupid things, and it would work. Like, strip 2 squirmies and a small nymph, and wreck some fish. But the thing is doing that, I was very inconsistent. So reading this book and hopefully spending some time on the water this spring and summer, doing some more stillwater fishing is going to elevate my game, and hopefully I will grow as an angler and transfer that into these things called fly fishing competitions and get after it, tear them up. But just a little intro to the book. I don't even think it's the first chapter, it's just an intro. And that's all we're going to do here today. The introduction asks the question, why lakes? I'm just going to go through some of the reasons that he talks about in the book. And then I added a few more personal reasons and why I personally enjoy lakes so much. I spend 99% of my time on the river, but I really do enjoy lakes, and they're a lot of fun. And the very first point is lakes are a mystery. Lakes confuse us. They get underneath our skin, and it kind of always has us asking the question, what if or what is? What kind of monsters are lurking in the depths of the lakes? Maybe we'll catch Loch Ness, the Loch Ness monster or something like that. But just kind of gets underneath our skin. I had a time this past summer on Ennis Lake where I just had fish rising all around me. And it was probably the most frustrating 2 hours of my life, not catching a single fish and just seeing all these fish in this highly productive lake, and I didn't catch a single one of them. So I actually ended up catching 3, I think, total that day, but for 2 hours, I caught absolutely nothing. The second thing he points out, and these are we'll do 2 and 3 together, no runoff and fewer crowds. Especially here in Montana, we don't really get super good fishing until mid-June. You can kind of get some before the runoff, that early spring kind of bite. It's kind of a short window, and then we have runoff, which you can fish during runoff, but it's just not as good as it is in the summer. So you basically have until June, which is, not really spring here in Montana, but spring elsewhere in the country, where you can just go after them. Plus, from being from New York, Pennsylvania, you can kind of avoid that opening day crowd by tackling stillwater, getting out on the boat, and fishing for some of those stockies in the lakes, which is a lot of fun. Also, you got a reduced pace. So, especially the way that I fish rivers, it's kind of aggressive. It's very taxing on the body. It's not always the easiest thing to do, especially when I'm wading aggressive on some of these bigger rivers that we have here. And, maybe you have some physical limitations, or you have, or maybe you're just kind of lazy that day and you just want to go out on the lake and kind of soak up the sunshine and not have to run up and down the riverbanks, wade on all that slippery stone. You can just kind of sit in a boat or on the bank and just cast away to your leisure. But he points out in the book that patience and touch are needed to be consistently successful. 2 things that I don't have, consistency or touch. So that's something I'll have to build as I continue to work on this skill, on this technique, on this way of fishing for trout. He also points out matching the hatch, which I know is huge kind of in the fly fishing community. To some, it's not to me. I'll tell you that right now. Not big on it. I throw suggested patterns and beat them to death with a myriad of drifts. And that's my strategy. I don't really match the hatch all that much. I will say when it comes to lakes, I think you have to match the hatch a little bit more. Obviously not always. Obviously, there's going to be times when these fish are more aggressive, willing to take like attractor type stuff like blobs, leeches. Plus, I think you can probably catch a fish on a leash most day, one or two, but like to be consistently good and, catch those rising fish that are all around me, I think you need to be matching the hatch, giving good presentations, the right life cycle. And I just think there's more bugs, there's more hatch opportunities in lakes. I also think there's fish more consistently feeding on the hatch items. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a river and seen just bugs just everywhere and no fish rising. So yeah, definitely an opportunity to match the hatch if that's your thing, especially if you're a dry fly fisherman on lakes. Also, he points out the average size of the fish. I kind of already talked about, maybe catching a lake monster. You can get some big fish in rivers. In lakes, sorry. One of the things I will point out is most of the average size fish are actually bigger weight wise. I just think there's more to eat in lakes for fish, and they're more consistently on the hunt, and probably more variety of bigger food items like leeches, even like scuds and other bait fish, other trout, stuff like that. Just an opportunity to get much bigger, I believe, in lakes. Don't get me wrong, you get huge fish out of rivers, but I think there's more food and more ability to do that in a lake. Also, a diversity of species, which can be frustrating too, I wrote for some reason. I wrote this for fly fishing in Pennsylvania and New York on lakes. When you're fishing for trout and all you can catch is bluegills, very frustrating. I will say some might even consider it tilt worthy. I would be one of them. But trying to target those trout, especially on some of those warm water fisheries that kind of just are more spring fisheries for trout, catching bluegill, you get your hopes up that you're getting a trout, and catching pumpkin seed. Though there's nothing wrong with pumpkin seed or anything else that you catch. Although I did think that there was one time I thought I had a huge freaking trout. It ended up being a very large white sucker, and that white sucker did not count in the competition. So frustrating, but fun nonetheless. But it depends. Depends on what you're after. When you're targeting trout specifically and only trout count in competition, other species can be frustrating though, like targeting pike and stuff like that. A lot of fun. And hopefully this will, this is a book about stillwater trout. Hopefully this will elevate my pike game, my muskie game, and anything else I target in lakes, bass, or whatever. So that kind of does it for what Phil talks about in this like opening introduction chapter. But as far as the stuff that I wanted to add, for me, the biggest thing is the tug is the drug. This is kind of something that, like, for streamer junkies that love to throw big flies. I'm not saying throw big flies on lakes, but people that live for that takes on lakes are very aggressive, especially when you're pulling flies. If you're kind of indicator fishing, kind of chrominate fishing, kind of that style. Maybe not so much, but when you're pulling fly, like, fish just annihilate some of the smallest flies. And also they fight super hard in lakes, because they don't really have to fight with the current that much. They're not really fighting against it. They're just taking you wherever. And I've had some really aggressive and fun fights, especially because I'm fishing heavier rods in lakes. I'm sure we'll get into equipment kind of in the next chapter or the chapter after that. But, I'm fishing a 10-foot 6-weight in lakes. Right now, I might want a little bit stouter of a rod, but fish are bending that rod and putting up some serious fights, and it's a lot of fun. And that's kind of what does it for me. I really love that fight in the lakes more so than in rivers, where I'm taking small fish and just flipping them into the net. And the takes kind of do it for me as well. Plus the mystery. I've fished rivers for a long time, and lakes are kind of something different. And as much as they piss me off sometimes because I suck at them, it can certainly be a lot of fun, and I'm very excited to learn more about it and do more stuff, learn more about it, and hopefully get better. But that's going to do it for this book club, guys. I'm going to leave the link to the description for the book. Leave the link for the book in the description. What I just said made no sense. But I'm going to leave that link to purchase this book in the description. Again, get it for Christmas. Follow along. You know, certainly I will not be going through everything in the book. You know, obviously, because I still want you to purchase the book and support, you know, the publisher and Phil Rowley, and try not to take anything away from this awesome work. So that'll be down there. Purchase it, and we will see you in the next one. Okay? See ya.